And here we are again, Fast Track. This is the roadmap, and now we're on to step 5, action plan or implementation. And this is where the going really gets good. This is the fun bit, and this is where you're going to find out how to put together an implementation plan for your clients so that they can then action that with your help and assistance. And this is where you're going to be using several tools. You'll be using the marketing strategies manual or encyclopedia, which you'll find in the bonus section, which is also in resources. You're also going to be using the Fast Track manual, as well as the action plan, which is both of which are also downloads or implementation plan, and you'll find those also down in resources. So can I ask you, if you haven't done so already, to download those? You might want to print out the implementation plan, which is the document you're going to complete either by hand in pen or whatever, or you can leave it as a Word document on your screen and complete it by just typing into the boxes. By the way, my advice is that download the Marketing Strategies Encyclopedia, but you might not want to print it out unless you got reams and reams of paper spare and a lot of cartridges, because it runs into about 270 pages. It's a big manual, a big tome. So if you want to just go get those things now and get them ready to look at on your screen, but if you can, print out your implementation plan. Okay, so assuming you've got your Fast Track client implementation plan in front of you, you'll see now the instructions, what we're going to do. So there's quite a few bits we're going to be using here. As you can see, number 1 says construct your implementation plan from your research and audit. Use the Fast Track manual and the Marketing Strategies Encyclopedia. Now, both of those, the Fast Track manual and the Marketing Strategies Encyclopedia, are your reference guides. The Fast Track manual really is the step-by-step instructions you're going to use to complete the implementation or action plan. And the Marketing Strategies is where you're going to get, as the name suggests, a lot of the strategies. So let's have a look at that in a moment. The second part of this is, once you've completed the plan, you really need to go talk to the client. And it should be obvious, but experience shows that it isn't always. However, sit down with the client, show them what you have in mind, make sure that they clearly understand it, and they also understand why we're doing it. The third part of this is implement the strategies. In other words, this is the bit where you take action, and you're going to work with the client to put these in place and to hopefully really move that business forward. Okay, so the Fast Track manual really is divided into the 7 alchemy keys. Let's just have a quick look at the manual. You'll see that it starts off with an introduction on page 4, and really that's just telling you what this is all about and why you're doing it. Section 2 of this on page 5 is you are in charge. And don't forget that, I mentioned that before. You're running the show here. These people are looking for somebody that's confident, that can take control, that is in charge. And that's what you need to be. That's how you need to appear. And perception's reality. That doesn't mean you're going to go in there and set up some totalitarian regime. It just means that they want you to do this job. They're trusting your expertise that they assume that you have. So have a read of that. In fact, read all of this, of course. Which brings us on to chapter 3, the primary function of a business. Worth a bit of a read, this, because what we're explaining here is that although it's easy to assume that a business is in business to make money, really we've got to narrow that down a bit further. It's in business to make a profit. However, its primary area of importance should be, and keep this in mind, the satisfaction of the needs and requirements of its customers and to fulfill those as much as possible. And if we've got that at the top of our minds, we really can't go wrong because everything else will take care of itself. So there we are. Those are the chapters that lead up to number 4 on page 8, which is the consulting actions. And this is where we're going to get very proactive. We're now going to work out exactly what we're going to do for this company. And so with the fast track implementation plan open as well, you might want to quickly flick through there and note that the first parts of this, the first boxes, are devoted to the profit multipliers, the alchemy keys. And just as a reminder, and this is reflected also on page 8 on consulting actions of the fast track manual, key number 1 is to increase customer numbers. And that's really about driving into that business more leads, more inquiries, more traffic. Number 2, improve the conversion of prospects and customers. So each of these, remember, is standalone. So in this case, and by example, we're going to look at what are they converting at the moment. And it could be that they're converting 20% of 100 leads, say, that are coming in. So they're converting 20 of them. What we want to do is move that up, improve it, drive it, and perhaps take it to 25, 30% or more. But, and this is where they come together, we've now got more leads to do that with because we've been increasing those lead numbers. So instead of 100 leads, we might have 120, 130, 140 leads. So we're going to increase conversion. And now we're starting to get that multiplication effect. And this is wonderful to see when you start feeding these numbers into the business growth calculator. That's also one of your bonuses, which you will find in the resources section. So, improving conversion of prospects and customers. Number 3, boost the average size of customer transactions. So people coming in, they're spending 20, 30, 40 pounds, dollars, euro, whatever. What can we do to increase that spend without reducing the number of times that they visit the business over a 12-month period, for instance? So we're looking for add-on sales. We're looking for adding sales to it. In other words, upselling and cross-selling, packaging, things like that. Number 4, increasing the frequency that customers buy. Mentioned before that we want to bring customers back as often as possible. If on average a customer visits the business 6 times a year, what can we do, and this is where the encyclopedia comes in on all of these, to get them to come in 7, 8, 9 times or more per year? And one other thing, bear in mind, all of these are averages. Number 5, improve profit margins and operating efficiency. So we're going to look at those bottom lines, and we're going to look at the manual, the encyclopedia that is, to see what strategies we can put in place in order to enhance profits. For instance, it could be that we're going to increase prices on certain products that we know are going to move anyway. We could find ways of making cost reductions and savings, things like that, where that affects the operating efficiency. Number 6, reduce customer defections. In other words, increase the number of years that they remain customers. So let us say that we're working with a business. We find, after doing a bit of research, and you will need to look into this because 99 to 1 says that they won't know. How long does the average customer stay with the business before they wander off, before they go elsewhere or whatever? And you could find that, let's say it is, as I said, 6 years. So what can we do? What can we put in place in order to get them to stay longer? And I'm talking here about loyalty schemes and regular communication, all sorts of things like that. And remember, that has an effect straight away. It isn't just at 6 years in the future. It's going to have an effect now, the moment you put this in, because already you've got customers, the average customer that is, coming up to that 6-year mark where they're probably going to wander off. So we want to keep them. And finally, of the 7 alchemy keys, get more referrals. Now, in many ways, this is related to number 1, but it kind of isn't, because it is a standalone area where we can actively drive more referrals in by putting in proactive referral systems. And we've got a whole load of them, as you'll see in the encyclopedia. And the good thing about referrals is that they come pre-positioned because they have been referred to us by someone that they trust, so that trust is now in place with our client. That's where the pre-positioning comes in. We have a built-in high conversion rate of referrals by the mere fact that they are referrals. All right, now you'll also notice that there's 2 other factors we're going to look at in the consulting actions, which are, you'll see the first of which is at the bottom of page 8, and that is to determine the lifetime value of each customer. And there's an exercise in here that we'll come on to in a little while on how you can go about doing that. And the other one is to clearly define compelling reasons for customers to continue to patronize the business. So we want to find, as they say in The Godfather, we want to make them an offer they can't refuse and therefore hang on to them, to keep them, or to drive more in. It's all part of generating more customers, but it's worthy of looking at it in its own right. And that's why we've made it a consulting action in this fast track manual and this fast track system. So little note there, you'll see that just using one of the actions will result in an increase in profits. So we're going to get that explosive exponential effect when we do all of these. And again, you can evidence this on the business growth calculator that is now yours. It's there, it's in the resources section. Now there's a bold, or rather upper case fonted couple of paragraphs here that starts with remember. And I'm going to paraphrase this to you. Being mindful of the responses in the audit and your other research, read through the consulting actions. Refer to the marketing strategies encyclopedia for ideas and strategies. Use the implementation plan document as your marketing action plan for the client's agreement. Implement the actions. So with that in mind, let's have a little bit of a look at these in general. Okay, consulting action number 1, increase customer numbers. This is over on page 10, and you can see that it's giving you a couple of actions to do here. Get more leads, and this is where you're going to refer to the encyclopedia. You're going to go to the section which is more leads, which is, let me just reference it myself. It's the second section in here, or it's the first section in here, and there's 110 ways in there of getting more leads. You're also going to look to lure back defected customers, and again, there are methods in there. Consulting action number 2 is increase conversion ratio. So we mentioned this a few minutes ago. You're going to go to section 2 and look at all the different methods in there for doing exactly that. Number 3, boost the average size of customer transactions. And this is page 12. You'll see increased profits from each sale. Look at ways of doing that. And there's the McDonald's example there. The would you like fries with that? Would you like to go large or supersize? Would you like a McMuffin or some other rubbish? So we're going to look at that and a whole bunch of other associated strategies that you can implement and techniques as well. And part B of that is sell more. You know, how can we sell more of this stuff too? It's all in there. Consulting action number 4, increase the frequency that customers buy. So, you know, occasionally this is back-end sales. and other times it's getting them to come back for specific reasons because we're offering bonuses or specials or sales, and you want to make these kinds of methods a norm within the business so that they have a continuing strategy or system to offer their customers compelling reasons to continue to come into the business. Consulting action number 5, improve profit margins and operating efficiency, page 15. So you're going to look at ways of increasing profits. Again, there's a whole section devoted to this in the Marketing Strategies Encyclopedia. We'll talk about it in a minute. And we're going to examine expenses and how we can reduce them. Now, these are just very quick actions. When we get into Talisman, you're going to see that we expand these enormously. And furthermore, Talisman, Manual 3 of Talisman, is a marketing strategies encyclopedia as well. But it has quite a few additions to the one that we've given you here. Consulting action number 6, increase the number of years that they remain customers. So this is where we're extending their buying lifetime that they're remaining with us. And there is an exercise we can do in a minute, and I'll show you that. But right now we want to look at the strategies in the handbook that's going to help to promote this for us. And there's a whole bunch of them there. Consulting action number 7, get more referrals, and you're going to bolster referral rates. You're going to look at referral reward programs and a whole host of other things that's going to do exactly that for you. Big section in the Marketing Strategies Handbook. Okay, consulting action number 8 is determine and exploit lifetime customer value. Now here is a method, and it's laid out very clearly on how to work out lifetime customer value. And we've also added something else called gross lifetime customer value that then focuses on profit. So that's on the next page, on page 20. Good news is, later on when we get onto Talisman, I'm going to give you a calculator, a spreadsheet calculator for doing this. So you'll be able to quickly work out what this is. And all of these whiz-bang kind of little gadgetry type spreadsheets, bits of software we're giving you, they look great in front of the client. They look extraordinarily professional, and it's wonderful to show them on your laptop or on your iPad or whatever, these things in action. Consulting action number 9, page 21, is creating clear, compelling, and irresistible motivations. And again, this is where you're looking to answer the question, why should a prospect or customer buy from you and not a competitor? And, you know, you're going to hear from clients all sorts of ridiculous remarks to this, which are platitudes and just bland statements like, oh, because we're good, or because we're the best, or this or that or the other. None of these are any good. And that's where, you know, you're going to start to think about right here and now, when you get to this consulting action, the USP, and what can we say that is different to everybody else? How can we make ourselves unique? Again, when we go into Talisman, we spend, I think it's at least 3 of the modules just building up positioning, niching, and the USP, because it's so important. Cast your mind back to the statement by Peter Drucker, there are only 2 things in business that make money, marketing and innovation. And this is the innovation. Positioning, niching, all of those things are all about the innovation. Right, so that's consulting action number 9. In the manual then, the Fast Track manual, there's a review of the strategies for you to look at. And finally, on page 25, there's 5 quick action steps that you can take to ensure your success. If you read the little giveaway I provided in video 3 of the free series, you'll recognize this from there if you downloaded it. It's a repeat of that, but it's worth putting in here because these are quick action steps here that you can take to ensure that you're on track and you are putting your client on the road to success. Next up on here is the Marketing Strategies Encyclopedia. Now, I mentioned before, so this might be a little bit awkward. This thing is really big. There's 400, just short of 450 marketing strategies in here. And they are sectioned into the 7 alchemy keys. So opening it up, you'll find that there's 110 strategies just for getting more leads. Now, the reason it's a little bit awkward is that, honestly, you might not want to print this out. Again, you might want to if you've got quite a lot of paper handy and some extra cartridges. But otherwise, you can access it on screen. And if it's possible, try to do that right now, just so that you can see how this thing is laid out. You use this, as it says on the screen here, in conjunction with the fast track manual that we've gone through. And that really is because you're referring to what you need to do and the order that you need to do it in, and your implementation plan. And the implementation plan is now very much going to come alive, because what we're going to do here is that we're going to look at each of the parts of the implementation plan, and we're going to add strategies in here according to what we find within the Marketing Strategies Encyclopedia that are the most appropriate to boost that particular profit multiplier or alchemy key. So just looking in the manual, let's just have a quick flick through, and then we'll return to the implementation plan. There is, right at the beginning, after the table of contents, you will find a quick glance section or a ready reference section where it lists down for section 1 110 ways of getting more leads, and it just gives the title of each of them. And then going over the page, you'll see there's another one for section 2 where it shows you all the different ways of boosting conversion rates, and so on and so forth. There's also a little section before we get into the strategies themselves on how to use the handbook, but or encyclopedia. I'm telling you that now anyway. And then we get into the strategies themselves, and you can't help but be impressed, I'm sure, but there are tons and tons of ideas in here, some of them very basic, and some of them I'm sure you're going to look at and think, well, that doesn't sound very clever. Well, maybe it isn't, but it is a way of generating more leads. And I'll mention something else here. Occasionally, you're going to hear from business owners things like, oh, we tried that and it didn't work. It's worth then questioning them and asking them, well, how did they try it? What did they do? And having a look at it, and you'll find 9 times out of 10 that they did something wrong, or they made a mistake, or that they were unaware of, or there are things that they didn't do, steps that they didn't take, and that's invariably the case. And so it's important that, when people carry out these strategies, they're done precisely. They're done in the way that we know will succeed and will work, be they basic ones or be they ones that are really off the wall or off the planet. So there's 110 different methods just for generating more leads. There's 63 ways just to boost conversion. There are, and I'm flicking through the book here, as you can probably hear, 51 ways just to boosting the size of customer transactions. 68 ways to boost profit margins. So there's a lot there. 55 ways to increase the buying frequency, how often people buy, that is. There are 38 ways of increasing the years that they do business with you. In other words, their loyalty, to maintain retention rates, to cut the defections. And then 57 ways just to get more referrals. So this is cram bang full of sometimes brilliant ideas. And here's what you've got to think like as well. You've got to get out of the box. You've got to look at some of these in a way that your business owner wouldn't. One of the keys to success in any business is to do things that other businesses in that industry is not doing. Give you an example. I used to live in Melbourne in Australia. So, hi, you Melbourners. And there is in Melbourne a suburb called Doncaster, which, without putting a slight on anybody from that area here in the UK, the Doncaster in Melbourne is a nice place. And there is a road that goes to Doncaster that comes off one of the major freeways called Doncaster Road. And Doncaster Road goes up a hill, and on the right-hand side, there's a big shopping centre, one of those Westfield shopping centres. And on the right side, there used to be an ANZ bank, a bank, with what appears to be a very large car park. So you drive in there, as I did the very first time, and there's arrows that take you around the side of the building. And you go around the side of the building and you're asked to stop. And lo and behold, you look out of your window, and there is, just like McDonald's, a counter with a glass, which, the bank teller slides open and asks you what you want to do, deposit or withdrawal or whatever. And you do some of the transaction there, then you move to the next window. It's a drive-in bank. Now, where did they get that idea from? And you see, it's this cross-fertilization of ideas from elsewhere that really can help a business to be unique and to be different. And that's the mindset that you've got to have. And when we get into Talisman, we're really going to drive that home to you. And again, it's the same with positioning. Because that's what we're talking about here. Not just your positioning, but their positioning. How to be different, how to be unique, how to be the only choice in customers' minds. Okay, so that's the encyclopedia. Now, we are going to be completing, therefore, the implementation plan. We're going to be looking through each of these sections, and we're going to be adding ideas onto the plan, which strategy idea that we've come up with. We should have a little bit of knowledge by now of who works within the company, our client's company. So who do we think in there is going to carry this out? Because it's not you. As I said before, you're not there to lick the stamps or answer the phone. Down that way lies danger. Down that way lies employment. And that's not why you're doing this. You're in control of the strategies. You are there to do exactly that, to strategize, to consult, not to do the do. You're there to advise, though. You're there to help in that way. So who within the company could carry out this particular action? Now, it could be that you're dealing with a fairly small company, and therefore it's got to be the business owner, and you might elect to help them to do it. But be sure that they are aware that that's not your job. And by when, also it asks in here, is it going to be done? And this creates a discipline to it. So multiplier 1, increasing the number of leads. Number 2, conversion rate. Number 3, increasing average sale. This is all in the profit multipliers, and you're going to be looking at your encyclopedia each time to list down the strategies and the ideas you've got. Now, we're going to be providing you with even more idea guides as we go on through this course to help you through this. Okay, and until you get to multiplier number 7, which is increasing the number of referrals. You'll also find that it continues on because there are other business factors here, and that's why we included within the Fast Track manual a couple of elements, other factors, as well as the 7 keys. So the top one here is unique selling proposition. What business are they really in? These are the questions you must ask yourself. What business are they really in? Where are they now? Where do they want to be? Remember, with a unique selling proposition, the shortcut here is to find out what it is, the reasoning that is, what is the reason that customers buy from them? What is the big benefit? And that generally is where your USP is going to go. It's going to revolve around that big benefit. Front end and back end products and profitability. How can we create or extend a back end? Is there a better way? Back end being other products or services that customers come back and buy after they bought the primary one. For instance, you buy a printer, you've got to go back and get cartridges. Guarantees and risk reversal. What's the industry standard? How can it be bettered? Positioning. more on that, to carry on from the USP. How can we be perceived, we being you and them, as the experts, joint venture endorsements, add-on products and services, hidden assets that are within the company. I'm just going through the list here. Related service and business expansion considerations. Some of these you might not want to get into at this stage. You're just forming a quick relationship. You really want to give them some quick wins. So don't worry too much about all of this. And there's a few other further considerations too in here, such as the website, newspaper and other media ads, sales materials, telephone scripts, testimonials, reasons why, and lots of other things. Some of this we studied, if you remember, in the Marketing 101. So it's not as if you haven't got the knowledge there, and it's not as if you don't have the materials and resources in order to answer these. But this is fast track. You want to get in there. You want to get started. Don't get bogged down in the detail. Just give them some quick wins and make some money for yourself. More importantly, get a testimonial. Really, really critical that you do that. Okay, once you've done the plan, you need to sit down with the client, so you're going to go back again, and by this time we're probably into week 3 or something. You've been to see them a few times, gathered some more details. Don't be afraid to do all of that. If they offer you a desk, you might want to go in there a few hours to be seen. Make sure that they're aware that you are working with them. A lot of this is smoke and mirrors, dare I say. So make sure that they see you. Be visible. You want to then sit down with them once this action plan, this implementation plan is done, and go through it with them. Discuss each point. See if there's any areas of discomfort with them, because there are from time to time, and find out why. And then explore that and try and put it right. They might have some valid reasons for not wanting to do things. One other big point I need to mention to you. Don't put too much in here. Don't go listing down, 10, 12 strategies. You don't want to do that. It's too big, and you can find yourself once again bogged down. What you want are 3, 4, maybe 5 good strategies for each of these, sometimes less. And I have to say that there are going to be aspects of that business that are going to shout out for attention. There are going to be things that they tell you in the audit or before and afterwards about what they used to do that made them successful before or when they first got started, which, is going to hit you like a sledgehammer to say to you, go do that again. Explore what they did to make them successful and do that again. Some of this stuff is really obvious, and occasionally, as Einstein says, we miss the obvious, and the scientist that can see the obvious is one to be admired. Right. Actually, I don't think it's quite what he said, but something like that. I'm sure you get the idea. And finally, you're going to implement them, or rather, you're going to assist and help, as I said before, with the implementation. Make sure that these things get done, and make sure they get done in the proper way. What you don't want is half-hearted implementation of this. It's got to be full. It's got to be complete. It's got to be comprehensive. They've got to do it precisely. So make sure that's done. And you are then, and more importantly, so are they, on the road to success. So there we are. That's the action plan and implementation. We've looked at number 1, constructing your implementation plan from your research and audit. And remember, those are there as well to be used. Use the fast track guide in your marketing strategies encyclopedia to put it together. Then discuss the plan with the client. Sit down, make note of sensitivities or areas of misunderstanding, explain it with them, and then work on implementing those strategies. Okay. And next, number 6, management. Very quick video for you because there's not a lot that we have to discuss there. Be back then.